Once again, my friend Jonny decided that I wasn't torturing myself enough and told me to play the ninja. More accurately, he showed me a walkthrough of the game, claiming that he played it when he was younger and suggested that I review it. This was the same guy who told me to play Alex Kidd in Miracle World, Balls 3D, and Action Fighter. Yeah, apparently I wasn't torturing myself enough. So I started up the Ninja, a game featured on the Sega Master System. The game starts right to a scrolling block of text, detailing the story. The title screen doesn't appear until after this. Seems like a strange order to me, but hey, I don't make games, I just play them. So as for the story, it's pretty basic, although all of the words may lead you to think otherwise. In the year 1630, there's a foreign land where the leader dies. New guy is evil, puts the princess away in confinement, and a lone man goes to fight back. His task is to find some secret ninjutsu scrolls so he can enter the castle and take down the evil boss. All of that text, just for that. And then you see the title screen, which is pretty cool looking with the fire in the background. So what does the ninja play like? It's like your standard overhead shooter, for the most part. There are enough changes to the formula to keep the game from being just average, but I'll get to that. Each stage starts with a simple display of how close you are to the castle, along with any scrolls you've collected, lives, and score. From here, you proceed onto the game. Most stages scroll vertically, with no horizontal screen movement, but there are a few exceptions, such as the second stage where you move diagonally while boulders bounce toward you, or the river stage where you're chucking shurikens at ninjas while standing on floating logs. I'd have to say that's unique just in itself. But back to the basics of the game. The screen doesn't move on its own in most stages, so you have to manually move your character forward in order to proceed. Ninjas will constantly be bombarding you, so you'll have to kill them to really move on safely. Once you get to a certain point, a boss will appear, and you'll move to the next level once the boss is slain. The boss is usually the same variety, and only the weaponry it has seems to be the only difference. Some will throw small shurikens, and others larger, unblockable ones. They also throw out some sort of bola-like thing that will circle around the boss. One of the unique things about this game is that you can move backwards and backtrack. This isn't something you see on a lot of games like this. It's an additional tactic that you can employ to survive. In fact, when fighting bosses, I found the best strategy is just to backtrack and spam your attacks straight forward, mainly worrying about evading projectiles and letting the boss walk into my own attack. It seemed to work for me at least. Usually. I guess I should talk about the various scrolls you can find. First is the blue scroll, which allows you to move a bit faster, and it really helps in later stages when enemies really start pursuing you. These seem to be a bit rarer than the other scroll power-up, which is the red one. This one replaces your throwing daggers with shurikens, and these will travel through most enemies. I should mention that both attacks you have access to can deflect your enemies' thrown projectiles. So I may as well talk about the green ninjutsu scrolls that you need to find in order to finish the game. Truth be told, I only found 2 of them, because I think the furthest I've ever gotten in this game was level 7, which was maybe halfway to the castle. These scrolls are hidden out of view, so you must do specific things in order to find them. For example, the first scroll is found in the very first stage by killing a specific ninja hiding as a rock. The second one I found was seen by touching this tree, making the scroll appear. Again, you need to find all 5 of them, or so I'm told, to make it to the final boss. Otherwise, the game keeps looping until you find them all. When mounting an offense, there's 2 attack options. One of the buttons throws an attack in whatever direction you're moving. The other will always throw your projectiles straight up, regardless on which way you're running. If you can get used to this system, which really shouldn't take long, you'll be able to start to master the game. Notice I say start to, because, truth be told, this game is hard as balls. For one, ninjas typically flood the screen and all attack at the same time. If you're quick enough, you can block some of the attacks by striking them with your own, but a lot of times you may not be accurate enough. Believe me, you'll die plenty of times when you thought the attacks would cancel out, but you ended up missing. And with no continues at all, you'll be replaying early stages a lot. You may even see them in your sleep. You do have one trick up your sleeve when things start starting to get hairy. You can turn invisible for a second. By pressing both buttons on the controller, your character will vanish and reappear about a second later. You can still move during this time, but you cannot attack. You may think that this is a negative effect, but it's a fair trade-off for being completely invulnerable during this time. Again though, your reflexes need to be quick enough to know exactly when to use this, and where you should go to remain safe when you resurface. It is possible to go invisible and accidentally move yourself into a more dangerous situation. It's just something to keep in mind. The graphics are fairly good for an 8-bit game. The trees have a bit of a transparent look to them, which really impressed me considering that most developers make them a solid green. Houses have some decent detail to them, and there are rock paths in certain stages. Most impressive is that river stage. It's only about 1 screen long, but the logs float around and you can see the currents from the water. It's pretty cool looking. The music is equally as good. It's very catchy, but there's one small caveat. When you pick up the red scroll, the music always changes to the same thing. It's like power-up music, but it never ends. So if you're able to pick it up and not die, you're going to be hearing the same song every stage. It only breaks when a boss appears, but even that theme only lasts for about a few seconds. It's a bit disappointing because there's some really good music to be heard. Well, that's all I got for the Ninja. It's mainly because I can't get very far, but it's definitely a fun game from what I've played of it. It's got a hell of a challenge, good music, good visuals, and addictive gameplay. It's one of those games where you just want to say one more try because you inch forward a bit more every time you turn the game on. Give it a shot if you have the means to play it. Final score? 8 out of 10. This is Reaper. Happy fragging.